The question is, do you know God? Short, simple. That's the question. Do you know God? He wants you to ask yourself that. Do you know God? Now, I'm also supposed to address something else. He says, I didn't ask, do you know Jesus? I ask, do you know God? Do you know what God you serve? Do you know what God you talk to? Do you know? Do you know God? Plain and simple. And it's not as simple as the question is, do you know God? It's not really a yes or no, is it? Or is it? If you say yes, then who is he? What kind of God do you worship? I'm going to give you a little bit about mine. And you think about yours. And I know a lot of people are going to say, but we serve the same God. Do we? Have you ever asked yourself that? That's what God's trying to get you to see. Do you serve the God? Or do you just serve a God? And which one? Do you know God? Let me tell you a little bit about what I know about my God. So you get the idea of what he's trying to say. But the question is still to you. Do you know God? And to give you a little bit on my God, the God I serve, the God I worship, the God that I know, the one I know. My God is an awesome God. He's wonderful. He's loving. He wants nothing but the best for me. He guides me in some of the most beautiful ways around bad situations. And I have to look up and say, God, I know that was you. Because that was too good to be true. My God is love. Loving, caring, kind, generous, all the good stuff. You know, he's the honey that's in the tea. He's the sweetness in the cake. Oh, he is that flavor in that best meal that just makes you go back for another plate. That's my God. My God is, he's the spark of life. He's the breath that's in my lungs. He's the DNA that goes through and builds in my body. He's the blood that runs through my veins. He is all the sparks that go off in my head. He is every beat of my heart. He's every breath of my lung. He's the gleam in my eye. He's the light that shines within. My God, he created the heavens and the earth and all that's in them. Not just some, all. He created the universe as vast as it is. He created dark from light. He created land from ocean. He created the wind. He created every tree that gives off oxygen, every bush that allows me to be able to breathe it in and live. See how complex he does things? Without the trees, I couldn't live. Because he made it just so that they put off what I need to breathe in to live. He gave me the sun that gives me my vitamin D. Without it, I couldn't have it. If I stay stuck in the house all the time and never get out in the sun, my vitamin D would go shoom. Because that's the only way I can get it naturally. God created everything, my God, just so I could live here. So you could live here. So my fur babies could live here. He created everything in its special order and in its own special way. That's my God. That's the God I worship. He wants nothing but the best for me. He gives me food, he gives me water, he gives me clothes, he gives me shelter. He gives me everything that my husband and I own together. My children, my fur babies, my chickens. He takes care of us. He protects us and keeps us safe from all things that may mean us harm. That's my God. That's the God that I worship. Do you know your God? That's what he wants to know. Do you know your God? He wants you to ponder about that. Think about it for a while. Think about, do you know your God? Do you truly, really, emotionally and in heart, spiritually, do you know your God? And do you know who he is? Do you know him? Do you know anything at all about him? Have you ever heard him? Have you ever met him? You know, that kind of thing. Do you know God? Do you know your God? Ask yourself that question. Do I know my God? Or have you just heard of him? You've just heard people talk about him. You've just read in a book about him. You just, or do you really know him? But anyway, that's the question that he wanted me to put on here for you to ask yourself. Do you know God? I want you to think on that. I love you. And remember, if I love you, Almighty God loves you oh so much more and unconditionally. So remember, talk to him. He's listening. You listen. Bye.